Now here you'll see, if I expand this, here is what I was referencing about primary keys. Any tables that does not have a primary key will have this red mark on it indicating that it cannot be published. So we cannot select veggies table. It must have a primary key. If I expand it, you'll see that it does not show up. So I can only select fruits table, which I am going to. So I'm going to uncheck that. And obviously I'm not checking this because it will not allow me to. You can look at the article properties here if you want to. Look at all articles and you can go over this. I usually leave it at default unless I need to go and change the specific things. But at this point, we're good. So just go cancel and go next. So remember, the only table of the multiple tables that we have, it has to have a primary key. Otherwise, we cannot select it. So we're only selecting fruits and go next. Here, obviously, you can filter the specific table or tables that you wish by clicking Add. And obviously, you can. Obviously, we only have one table here, but if you have multiple tables, and this is basically just the where clause, then you can just put where fruits like apple if you want. But since we have very little data, we're going to cancel this. But just note that you can filter the data that you need to propagate it to the subscriber using the where clause. Go cancel. So we're going to go next. Now, obviously, this is the snapshot agent that we're talking about. We do want to create a snapshot initialized immediately and the schema and the data. So we're going to select this. You can schedule this if you want. You can schedule it for whatever you wish. Obviously, this is on the default. We can change it. And then you've gone through this, creating a job as you wish. So you can change that. For our purposes, we're good. So we're going to create a snapshot immediately and keep the snapshot available until it initialize to initialize subscription. Go next. Now here, obviously, this is an important aspect of security. This is the reason why we went to DC and created this user called rep, because we want to use a domain user that has sysadmin rights on that particular server on servers. So we don't want to use, so click on security. Let me show you that. We don't want to use this. Do not run it on. For test purposes, if you wanted to select this, that's fine. However, in a production environment, you must create a domain user as I have and give it appropriate rights. So we're going to have to type in rep, SQL /rep and then the password. Now, this particular agent is going to run under that account by impersonating the publisher. So go OK. So we're good. Go next. And now we're going to actually create the publication. Again, you can generate a script to do it. I may have a video that's dedicated just on creating scripts and running it. But it's always good to have a script just in case you don't have to go through this wizard process again if your environment is fairly complicated and involved. So go next. So let's call it veggies, fruits, publication. You can call it whatever you want. And obviously this is a summary of the publication and we're going to go finish. Now obviously here it is. Now it's creating the publication, creating the various articles. We only have one article, the fruits, which is the table, and it's starting the snapshot agent. And we're going to go close. So now as you can see, we've created the publication. So at this point, all we've done is created a magazine with articles in it. And we have not published this. We've published this, but there's no one to subscribe to it. So we have to now subscribe, meaning we have to have another server receive this data. So if you go to server 2, and if I go here and refresh, you'll see that I do not have a database called foods. So I need to pull data from there. So what you want to do here is go to replication and go local subscription, new subscription. Now we're going to get that data. So now we're on the subscription server and we're going to go next. It's asking where the publication resides. Well, the publication, as you know, we just created it, resides on server 1. So we're going to find server 1. Let's connect to it. And as soon as we connect to it, you'll see that all the publications that we have under that database will be mentioned here. Since we only have one, it's automatically highlighted it for us. And we're going to go next. Now, this is the distribution agent location. As I said, you have two types where you can push the article, or you can pull the article. In our case, we want to make sure the work is done by the publisher itself. But again, in a very busy environment, you would have the distributor on a separate server. But for our purposes, we can run all agents on the distributor and push the subscription. So go next. And now it's asking, what are the subscribers? Well, we don't want the server, we want the server 2 to be subscriber. But look at this one, it's asking for where's the database. As you can see, there's no database here. If there was, we would have highlighted it and selected it. Since there isn't, I'm going to create one. Now, the reason I didn't create one earlier, because I want you to note that I'm calling it the same. You can call it different, but we need to call it the same to make it a little easier. So we're going to call it Foods Database. And now you can see the Foods Database has been created. If I wanted to send this publication to another subscriber, meaning to another server, I could go here, add SQL subscriber, and I could select all the appropriate servers here and then send it. So it doesn't have to be one-to-one here. I can send a publication from the publisher to many subscribers as I wish here. So go next. Now obviously it's asking for the distribution server server security. So click on, let's again make sure we're using the, now you can use separate accounts, which I would recommend, but for our purposes we're good. So you may want to have one for log reader, one for snapshot agent, and so on. It's always better to have separate accounts for individual agents, but for our purposes, we're good. And go next. And now obviously it'll ask you to synchronize the schedule. Generally, most default environments choose run continuously. You can have the run on demand, which is a schedule, but we'll just leave it and go next. Initialize the subscription. Yes, we want to initialize it immediately. Go next and create the subscription. As soon as I go yes, it'll give you a summary, and just go over that and go finish. And that'll just take a second. Now again, like we've been talking about log shipping and database mirroring, this time frame is dependent on how much data you have. For our purposes and demonstration, we're using virtually no data, so it's becoming relatively quick and easy to see. But obviously in a large environment, this may take minutes, 30 minutes, hours, so you'll have to play around with that. So just go close. And now if I execute this, and you'll see we have a subscription, and we have a database called Foods, and we have a table called Fruits. So everything is fine now. So this publication is continuous. So let's go and check it now. If the data, now that we've set up replication for that particular publication and that particular article, let's see if the data propagates from the publisher to the subscriber. So let's go over here and let's look at the, highlight this. And let me go here actually. So here you can see on the publisher, I have only 5 fruits, 1 through 5. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert another fruit called strawberry into the publication. And now I'm going to look at it. And you can see now I have 6 records. If I go to, let me just copy that. If I go to the subscriber and right click, if I go to the subscriber, remember originally it had 5 and now it has 6. So let's actually do another one so you can see in real time again. So I'm going to insert another record on the publisher, Fruits, execute. Now I'm doing cherry. And I'm going to execute. And obviously I have 7 records. On the subscriber, as soon as I refresh it, I have 7th. So now we have continuous transactional replication from the source data, which is the publication, to the destination, which is the subscriber. And as I mentioned, if there's many subscribers, we'll have multiple servers here subscribing. So now you can continuously have data from the source to the destination. And this is how you would set up transactional replication. And this is what you'll probably most likely do in your production environment. So take a note of that. So that's all it is. It's not that complicated to set up. And one thing we have to do now is monitor it. So how do you monitor database replication? There's a few ways to do it. I may have a video dedicated on replication, but let me just point out here. If you go to your publisher and go to replication, right-click, you can launch the replication monitor. This is a great tool. I use it every day. I have other scripts, DMVs that run, but I use this one visually to make sure everything is running. And as you can see now, the publication, I have status is okay. The publication is fine. I have 1 subscriber, obviously. If, as I mentioned, if I had many subscribers, this obviously number would change. If I click on this tab, I can show the snapshot subscribers, show transactional subscribers. And obviously I don't have snapshot subscribers, I only have transactional. If obviously I created a merge one, then I would see a merge one or a snapshot. I don't see any snap merge either. So we're just doing snapshot here. You can see the performance, the latency is virtually 0 because there's nothing here. Status is running and so on. Here's the agents that are associated with it. Obviously the snapshot agent ran, it'll give you the time and how long it ran. You can click on this and look at the log reader snap, which is running as you can see, and you can go through this process again. And again, this is what we're looking for. If you click on the publication itself, you can create trace tokens, which I may do later. And you obviously talk about the various agents that are associated with it. And then you can obviously create what I call thresholds. And then we can configure alerts on these thresholds that we do. And we may do that later. So this is a very quick way and visual way of monitoring. And when I get up into my office, this is one of the first things I'm looking for, is everything is running, is nice and green, everything is running, there's no alarms, and there's no alerts in my system. So this is a good way of monitoring it. So I would highly recommend you get in the habit, if you are executing replication, of looking at this. And obviously, if you had many publications, then they would be listed here, but we're just creating one. So in the next video, actually, what I'm going to do now is do peer-to-peer replication, and we'll see what the dissimilarity is between that and transactional replication. But this is how you would use and conduct and configure transactional replication from one source to the destination or multiple destinations. So I'm going to leave it here now, and we'll continue with peer-to-peer in the next video. So my name is Raphael, and this is how to become a production SQL database administrator. See you in the next video.